going on, everybody? Got quite a fascinating story to tell you all today. A little bit different. I know I'm going to forget and leave a lot of it out. It's quite a long story, so I'm going to try to tell it as quick as I can. And then at the end of the video, I got something, a little bit of proof of the story. But I'll go ahead and get started on it. My dad, me, we've got this set of cousins, and I guess he'd be my first cousin, second cousin. But anyways, this started back in the late 70s. He got a backhoe and a dump truck, and he didn't have much business to begin with. It's hard to get started in that line of business, to pay for that stuff once you get it. But he got an old rickety used backhoe and dump truck. So he started doing little jobs for people, wherever he could find, whatever he could do is what he done. So he got to working for this guy, and at the end of the day, he got to noticing somebody in a pickup truck would be sitting at the end of the road watching him, pulled over to the side of the road. And this went on every day for a week. This guy in this black truck would be pulled over watching him. And he was afraid that whoever it was planning on stealing his backhoe or his truck. He just knew that's what was going on. So the next week started, and sure enough, the morning now it started, there was the guy end of the evening. And on about Wednesday, he come out, and then the guy approached him. The guy said, I asked him, said, would you like to make some money? He said, yeah, I'd like to make some money. The guy said, well, I've been watching you. I know that you've just acquired this backhoe dump truck. That's the kind of person I'm looking for. I'm not looking for somebody who's been in business a long time, who knows a lot of people. I need something done, and I need somebody that can do it, don't know a lot of people, and can keep their mouth shut. And if that's you, he said, I'll pay you pretty good to do what I need done. Of course, my cousin, well, he didn't want to do anything illegal. The guy told him nothing illegal. He said, I own the land. He said, my sisters and brothers own stake in the land too, but they live in Texas. I'm the only one that lives here. So you have permission to be on the land. This was in Blount County. He said, if you'll meet me Saturday morning, he said, I'll show you where I want you to dig for me. Well, my cousin, not just being an expert at backhoes, he told the guy, he said, I need to know just a little bit more. Am I digging a trench, a ditch, a well? Exactly what am I digging? That's when the guy told him, he said, if you promise me you can keep a secret, he said, I'll pay you well. He said, I've got a map, an old map from my great-grandfather. He said, where there's several jars of silver dollars buried. He said, my family has tried to find the map for years. He said, I think I found it. And he said, I think I know where they're at. He said, if you'll do this for me, he said, not only will I pay you X amount to come over and dig, but if we find the silver dollars, he said, I'll give you a jar of the silver dollars. Of course, my cousin asked him, can you afford to do that if I come over and dig? At this point, he thinks he's pulling his leg. And the old guy tells him, there's over 100 jars of silver dollars if we can find them. He tells him there used to be in old whiskey barrels, about 7 or 8 whiskey barrels. And he was very vague on it. He said, I can't tell you how they come about. He said they come about back in 1800s. Somebody was raising some money to do something, and these was acquired. And a lot of them was acquired illegally all across the United States. Well, to make a long story short, my cousin, come Saturday morning, he didn't have enough fuel to get to Blount County. Cause backhoe payments and stuff. So he asked my dad if he could borrow some money to put some diesel in his backhoe and dump truck. And he told him if he done that, not only would he pay him back, but if he found those silver dollars, of course he told my dad, he was family, of course my dad ain't gonna say nothing. He ain't gonna tell him where this place is at. He just told him it was a guy. He said if we find these, he goes, I don't believe it's real, but if we do, he said, I'll give you a couple of these silver dollars. So my dad says, sure. I think he gives him $40. So he drives his backhoe and meets this guy at this store. The guy instructs him to unload the backhoe off the trailer. Can't drive this truck back up this road where we're going. Don't want nobody to see this huge truck and backhoe. So he unloads the backhoe, drives it way back in this holloway over in Blount County, gets where he's going, and then there's 2 security guards there with him. The guy's hired security guards. Well, at this point, my cousin knows that this guy's pretty serious, but just don't know that he can find what he's looking for. So he's got an old picture of a Civil War battle, and he's looking at that picture, and my cousin seems to think that on the back side of that picture is where he's found the map. It was a picture that the grandfather or the great-grandfather had painted when he was younger, and my cousin seemed to think that he had put the map on the back side of this picture. And he kept watching the guy look at this picture and show him where to dig. He went way back in this hole and he dug 2 or 3 places, never did find nothing. And he asked him, he said, do you care if I help you look at that map? I'm pretty good at reading maps. And the old guy tells him it's not really a map. He says, I was sitting my grandfather's place, the house is abandoned, and he said this painting was on the wall, and he said the more I looked at it, the more I realized that this is the property that we own. There was no Civil War battle took place here. The best I could understand it, it was a painting, and it looks something quite like this right here. Sorry I got that upside down. It looked like that right there. Now this is not the painting, but he said that it looked something similar to a painting like this. Now there's a Civil War battle going on, and he said at the bottom the painting was called The Onlooker, and there was a flag marked like a Confederate flag somewhere in the picture. You can see there's guys doing battle, you can see flags and stuff, and he was having him dig. He said he recognized this landscape as being that hollow, and he thought that that's where he had buried those silver dollars. Well, my cousin got to looking at the map with him, and lo and behold, way down here in the corner, there was some guys engaged in battle, but there was one guy who was looking through a looking glass. And he wasn't looking toward the battle, he was looking up this way. And as he was looking up this way, there were 2 guys standing up here that was engaged in almost like a bayonet fight, a sword fight if you will. And they had their swords crossed like an X in the fight. Well, the name of the painting's The Onlooker. He said, have you thought to go right there and dig? Do you recognize where this spot is? The old guy says, I know exactly where that's at. So they drove way on back into the hills, way on back. He said the 2 security guards followed him. They never said a word. He said that they got back there And he took the backhoe bucket and he reached into that bank and he made a big claw chunk, just ripped it out there, big bucket full. And he said out of that bank, he said he could hear the jars break. And he said out of that bank come 4 or 5 jars of silver dollars. A couple of them had broke. He said that about that time that old guy stopped him. He said, whoa. He said, that's it. This is where it's at. He said, you're good. He walked over and he picked up a jar and he reached it to my cousin. And then he paid him what he owed him. He told him to get out of there and don't ever come back. He said, now promise me you won't ever come back. He said, this will be under a chain link fence next week. He said, I'll have these guards here. And he said, I'm going to excavate the rest of this myself. And of course my cousin agreed to it. He said, yeah, I promised you. Do what I told you I'd do. So he reached him those silver dollars. And he wondered how much more was in there. Of course, the old guy told him they was way over 100, should be. And like I said he saw about 6 or 7 roll out of the bank. And he said he looked at the bank and he could tell from looking there that it was big old man-made hump, big mound, if you would, you know, sort of like a Indian mound, if you would, kind of like that hump over there. He said he just knew that thing was full of silver dollars. Well, he come on back home with his jar of silver dollars. He come to my dad's house and he give him 2 silver dollars out of that jar. Shook him 2 out, just like he promised. Of course, my dad, he couldn't believe it. He just couldn't believe he found all that. And of course, my dad had passed on. Before he passed on, he left me those 2 silver dollars that my cousin gave him. Of course, my cousin's gone now. But I'll lay these down right here and show them to you. They're old. Right here is the 2 silver dollars that was dug out of that bank. I think that one says 1889 and that one's 1879. And those come out of the jar. I don't know what the oldest one was. Of course, I was just a kid. I don't know what the newest one was or the oldest one was. Of course, cousin, he's long gone. Dad's gone now too. So I just wonder if they came from bank robberies, train robberies. I mean, I don't know how they was acquired or what somebody was financing way back then to do. I have no idea. Me and him rode by there in the early 90s. Got as close as we could to it, and sure enough, there was a big old huge chain link fence up around the property, and it was gated off and everything. But I'm sure by that point in time, he'd done dug all the silver dollars out of the ground that was in there. And if I ain't mistaken, he told my cousin that they had originally started in whiskey barrels and been put into the jars for some reason to be moved easier. I don't know. He wouldn't tell him much. But if I'm not mistaken, he did tell him there was one whiskey jar, or whiskey barrel, I mean, still completely full of them, and it was buried over there too, right around close. So just imagine how much money and what those would be worth today. Anyways, I thought I'd pass this story on to you. I come across those silver dollars at the house there the other day, and I remembered that story. And it's a little different story. It's not a scary story, but it's a fascinating story to just think that stuff like that buried in these old mountains, way back in the mountains here. And who knows? Maybe he didn't get them all. Maybe they wasn't all in the same place. Maybe he didn't find them all. It's nice to dream. Anyways, I'll get off from here. I got some more scary stories to tell y'all. I just thought I'd change it up a little bit and throw something different at y'all. It's South Force 10. I'll holler back at you guys later. Goodbye.